Joe, you say right now he's delusional or something like that.
I was saying it's an insane.
Oh, sorry, you said insane.
Insane.
Right.
Let's get a terminology. It's an insane.
That's better.
Thank you. It's an insane point to consider that government does not have a role of job creator and that smaller government is better. No, government from its very first days of existence has been to help capital and has been to help form businesses in the United States. Taxation used to make roads, used to make people safer, used to promote business, and used to promote the capitalism that Republicans say they embrace. Yet when they're talking about smaller government, it always seems to go in one direction, and that's towards public sector jobs, which are necessary to protect the capitalism that we all say we enjoy.
No, the role of the government is not to create jobs, but to create an environment where entrepreneurs can flourish.
And that
tax policy,
jobs. You can't
trade policy.
But you can't create this this policy out of whole cloth. You have to have people to implement
it.
You
need to have a certain level.
Those are jobs.
But you don't need all these people sitting up in the Department of Education pushing paper around.
We're not talking about the Department of Education. We're talking about civic public sector jobs, which have been the hardest hit, especially after the Republican Party voted down or at least stalled aid to states. States are going broke. They can't hire more people.
Here's the problem for Republicans. When they come running on a cutting government program, blacks are overrepresented in the federal workforce.
Where do we start talking about black people?
No, I'm just jobs. So when you talking about cutting jobs,
no,
if they are, so what?
And it doesn't.
Number one, so they're disproportionately affected.
You want to purge all the blacks out of the Department of Education?
No, we want to purge a lot of the government to make it more efficient. With all this technology we have, we don't need all these bodies sitting up in D.C.
All right, I got a place to start.
I want to make a distinction here. I'm not talking about federal bureaucracy.
I
am talking about local, state jobs where you have teachers are working extra hours with more kids in the classroom, where you have firefighters who have to double shift at the same pay, where you have people who can't afford to sustain the level of living
we're spending locally for education. And D.C., they spend more per capita than any other municipality in the country, and the results are abysmal. It's not a funding problem. Most of the money goes to the bureaucracy.
I'm not talking about funding.
Joe Madison.
I suspect Raynard, after the facts come out, will end up voting for President Obama, who, by the way, has cut more federal jobs, I think, than his predecessor did. There's been a deeper cut.
And he just closed the MBDA.
Excuse me, Raynard. Excuse me.
Joe, go ahead.
There's three of us here, more than you. The reality is, I just said the facts. I hate to confuse him with facts, but the reality is that you have Democrats who understand they want smaller government. What Republicans really are saying to people is that they want federal government to do four things: defense. They want federal government to take most of the jobs, particularly in discretionary spending, and they want to turn it over to states. And they want to do it through block grants, which means that states like Mississippi and Louisiana and all these red states don't put as much money in education as other states do. So even
though they're at the bottom of the education level.
At the bottom of the education level. So when you start talking about spending, the reality is it's nothing more than a code word. Let's just have government do the bare minimum. And then everything else, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, we'll give it to the states.
Speaking of code, I got to deal with this. It's time for our The Biggest Damn Lie. I want you to weigh in on this for our panel, so hold tight 1 second. For most of us, just saying the name Donald Trump makes us think liar, idiot. You can go on and on. But this week, he outdid himself. After the president released his long-form birth certificate and then humiliated Trump at last year's White House Correspondents' Dinner, we thought Trump would shut up and move off the birther lie onto other lies. But no, he went there again. It started when a right-wing website found an old brochure from an agency that represents authors that stated that Barack Obama was born in Kenya and was raised in Indonesia. That got the Donald going.
A publisher came out last week and had a statement about Obama given to them by Obama when he was doing a book as a young man a number of years ago in the 90s, born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia. I mean, this was a statement. This was from Obama.
First of all, it was a literary agency, not a publisher. So, Donald, if you're going to lie, at least get your facts straight. Then he says, quote, this was from Obama, unquote. Let's take a look at what the person who actually wrote the bio had to say. Quote, This was nothing more than a fact-checking error by me. There was never any information given to us by Obama in any of his correspondence or other communications suggesting in any way that he was born in Kenya and not Hawaii, unquote. Trump admitted he knew about this statement from the bio writer, but chose to dismiss it. But as bad as this lie was, this next lie is even better.
I've been known as being a very smart guy for a long time.
Seriously, that's a lie. Donald, you certainly brought... I mean, the hits keep on coming. Surely, Mitt Romney can try to say, I disagree with some of my surrogates, but you can't have loudmouth Donald Trump constantly dominating the news cycle, and you're standing next to him at a fundraiser and then say it's no big deal. When you're playing right into these racist folks who believe the president wasn't born here and he was laying up in a Kenyan hospital.
Tell me one vote
It's amazing
that Mitt
how
Romney
quiet
gets,
our Republican
right?
friend got there.
Yeah. One vote that Mitt Romney gets for standing alongside of Donald Trump. You can't name me one.
Well, and the polls show that Trump will have a negative impact on it. And Raynard, is this clearly Trump playing to the idiots, playing to the liars, playing to these crazy birthers? And shouldn't Mitt Romney say, okay, enough is enough, Trump, shut the hell up. You're not helping my campaign.
I agree. I thought politically it was a horrible move. And anytime your surrogate gets more media attention than you, there's a problem. There's a problem. So we lost 2 or 3 days in the news cycle because everyone's talking about Trump. It's a horrible move.
Well, I think 2 or 3 days are going to come back again because Trump is going nowhere. And having Donald Trump on your team is like holding a live hand grenade with the pin pulled out. You never know when it's going to go off and explode. But to me, one of the supreme ironies very quickly is that this is the same sort of howling nonsense that got Reverend Jeremiah Wright dismissed. People were afraid that his racist, some called it racist, but his presence was going to hurt the president. He had to distance himself immediately.
But I think it says something about Mitt Romney's character, too, which is when Rush Limbaugh called those awful words for Sandra Fluke, right? Mitt Romney said, oh, those weren't the words I would have chosen, right? That woman called President Obama a traitor right to his face. Mitt Romney, no reaction at all, right? And now this thing, the best he can say is, well, you know, I don't agree, but I need 50.1%. Come on, get some backbone. Stand up and say, this is wrong. I have nothing to do with it.
Like Raynard just did.
Right. Like Raynard did. Why don't you teach your man some, you know.
I can lead him to the water, but I can't make him drink it. But let me tell you something.
Final comment right now. Final comment.
If Romney loses the election, it won't be on all these extraneous matters. I mean, it will be on these extraneous matters. It won't be on the issues. If it's on the issues, Obama loses. But the reason I say...
If it's on jobs, Obama wins. He's created more jobs.
Republicans win. But if it's on all this birthday stuff, because Republicans won't keep their darn mouths shut, we lose.
Well, look, if you keep gravitating to crazy people will keep talking.